I grew up on a farm in a family of 12 children, 6 girls and 6 boys, and a lot of people had big families. People asked me if we were Catholic. I am sure of myself as a person. I'm sure of my talent. I like the kind of person that I am.
For decades, she stayed silent. She smiled through betrayals. She forgave. At least, that's what we thought. But now, at 79 years old, the Queen of Country isn't holding back. Behind the glitter, the Southern charm, and the legendary voice, Dolly Parton has kept a list. 6 names, 6 artists, 6 unforgettable betrayals. From bitter lawsuits to quiet revenge, Dolly remembers everything. And the last name on this list? It's someone no one ever expected. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the betrayals, lawsuits, and cold rejections that even Dolly's diamond-studded grace couldn't fully hide. And trust me, the last one will shock you. She's the Queen of Country. A global icon wrapped in rhinestones, Southern charm, and steel. From the outside, Dolly Parton has always seemed like a beacon of positivity. No matter the situation, she flashed that iconic smile, offering up wisdom and warmth with her trademark twang. But the truth is, Dolly's journey hasn't been paved in rhinestones alone. It's been riddled with heartbreak, deception, and moments of deep disappointment, many of which she bore in silence. Until now. Let's start with her early years in Nashville. When Dolly first arrived in Music City, she was viewed as just another pretty face with a guitar. But she quickly proved she was more than a voice. She was a powerhouse songwriter with ambition as towering as her blonde wigs. Even so, her path was anything but smooth. One of the earliest betrayals came from those closest to her in the industry. When she began making waves, several of her songs were credited to others or dismissed entirely. Dolly kept her head down, worked harder, and vowed to never let someone take what was hers again. At the time, she was barely out of her teens, still learning to navigate an industry dominated by powerful men who underestimated her at every turn. Then came her controversial split from longtime mentor and musical partner Porter Wagoner. Their partnership had been wildly successful, but it ended in tension and lawsuits. Porter sued Dolly for breach of contract when she decided to go solo. She settled out of court, but the emotional wounds ran deep. Despite the pain, Dolly still credits Porter with shaping her early career, proving once again her ability to forgive, but never forget. Her hit song, "I Will Always Love You," was written as a goodbye to Wagoner. Bittersweet and graceful, it became an anthem of independence cloaked in love. The world heard a tender ballad. Dolly knew it was a line drawn in the sand. What most people don't know is that Elvis Presley wanted to record the song, but his manager demanded half the publishing rights. Dolly said no. It was a bold move, unheard of at the time, and one that likely cost her millions. But it also cemented her as a woman who knew her worth. But it wasn't just the music industry that tried to box her in. Dolly faced persistent scrutiny from the media. Journalists often mocked her looks, calling her fake and plastic. Few took the time to recognize the sharp businesswoman underneath. She endured it all with poise, rarely snapping back. But those close to her knew. Dolly remembered every slight, every headline, every offhand remark that tried to reduce her to a punchline. Then came the legal battles. In the 1980s, she faced a string of lawsuits from former associates who believed they were owed a slice of her growing empire. She fought them in court, sometimes winning, sometimes settling, but always walking away stronger. These cases rarely made headlines, but they were emotionally taxing. Each one was a reminder that success often attracts opportunists. Dolly had to become more than just an artist. She had to become a strategist. Perhaps one of the most painful moments came in the form of rejection. Not from a person, but from the country music industry itself. Despite being one of its most recognizable and beloved figures, Dolly was, at times, pushed aside. Her decision to cross into pop music in the late 70s and 80s was met with resistance. Purists claimed she had sold out. Her radio play diminished. Awards were sparse. Still, Dolly forged ahead. She diversified. She launched Dollywood. She wrote books. She acted. She built an empire that stretched far beyond country music. Her fans stayed loyal, even when the institutions didn't. In fact, it's those very fans who kept her music alive, sharing her work with new generations and ensuring that her songs never faded from the spotlight, even when award shows did. But the betrayals weren't limited to business. In interviews, Dolly has alluded to painful betrayals in her personal life. Friends who sold stories to tabloids, people she trusted who turned their backs when the cameras stopped rolling. She's never named names, but she's hinted that some of the deepest wounds came from those who once called her family. These experiences taught her to guard her inner circle fiercely. Trust, once broken, was rarely restored. And let's not forget the media frenzy that surrounded her marriage. Dolly and her husband, Carl Dean, have kept an intensely private life, which only fueled speculation. At times, rumors swirled about affairs, separations, even secret children. Dolly never wavered. She smiled, laughed, and brushed off the gossip. But she never forgot how the press tried to tear down what little she chose to keep sacred. To this day, Carl Dean remains a mystery to most, a testament to their enduring bond, and her determination to keep one piece of her life untouched by fame. Despite all this, Dolly has rarely spoken out in anger. She believes in kindness, but she also believes in boundaries. Her ability to forgive doesn't mean she forgets. She once said, "I'm not one to hold a grudge, but I remember everything." It's a philosophy that has kept her grounded in an industry that often tries to uproot. One of the more subtle but stinging rejections came from Hollywood. Though Dolly starred in hits like 9 to 5 and Steel Magnolias, she was rarely offered the kinds of roles that matched her talent. She was typecast, limited, judged for her appearance and accent more than her acting chops. Still, she made her mark and kept her dignity intact. She turned down roles that didn't align with her values, even if it meant losing opportunities. But perhaps the most shocking moment came later in her career, when Dolly was passed over for major awards, despite her unmatched influence on music and culture. While many peers were celebrated at every turn, Dolly was often left out of the conversation. Fans began to notice. Critics were baffled. How could someone so legendary be so overlooked by the very institutions she helped elevate? It wasn't until much later, decades into her career, that some of those accolades finally came. Long overdue, but richly deserved. Through it all, Dolly kept smiling. But if you listen closely to her lyrics, watch her interviews, and read between the lines, the story is clear. She saw everything. She remembered. She moved forward anyway. And that's what makes Dolly Parton more than a music legend. She's a symbol of resilience, of dignity, of quiet power. She wears glitter, but she plays chess. She charms you, but she never lets you underestimate her. Every laugh is earned. Every lyric is laced with truth. So the next time you see Dolly Parton smile, remember, it's not just a smile. It's a story, a shield, a statement. She's endured lawsuits, betrayals, and rejection. She's navigated sexism, ageism, and industry politics with a grace that few could manage. And yet, she remains beloved, not because she hid the pain, but because she chose to rise above it. Behind the sequins and sass is a woman who's been hurt deeply, but never broken. She's the queen of country, a global icon wrapped in rhinestones, southern charm, and steel. And now, the world is finally giving her the flowers she's always deserved. But remember this, Dolly Parton didn't just smile through storms. She walked through them, head high, heels on, and memory sharp. Because when you cross Dolly, she may forgive, but she never forgets. If that shocked you, there's more where that came from. Like, share, and subscribe for the untold stories behind music's biggest legends. You won't want to miss what's next. Thanks for watching.